Hey folks, and welcome to another video from a plaintruth.info. Today I want to go up into space. They're focusing on space or the ether, whatever you want to call it. But here's Mr. Happy Vice President Mike Pence delivered a speech a couple weeks ago creating the Space Force, the sixth Department of Defense. Quote, now the time has come to write the next chapter in the history of our armed forces to prepare for the next battlefield where America's best and bravest will be called to deter and defeat a new generation of threats to our people, to our nation, Pence said. Establish the United States Space Force, or USSF. Described by Vice President as this new sixth branch of the armed forces, separate from and equal to the other branches. The Space Force would be tasked with confronting the new battlefield of outer space, the new battlefield. No, they just want to own everything, as I'm going to get into in a minute. And are they creating the new Space Force to eliminate NASA? Because just like they did with Monsanto, they can just destroy the entire GMO movement when Monsanto got bought by Bayer. Now it's Bayer the GMO problem. See how they do it, folks? They just get rid of things and then you don't have anybody to fight against. All right, so let's get into this. First, that giant lens you saw at the beginning there, that is by BAE Systems, laser giant lenses in the sky. BAE Systems are future technology. Yeah, they have it now. If they say long distance reconnaissance and for deflecting attacks from high energy laser beams. Try and shoot them out of the sky, they got you covered. Laser developed atmospheric lens. The system has been developed at the BAE Manufacturing Military Wharton, Lancashire. The concept is based on known science and been evaluated by Science and Technology Facilities Council at the Rutherford Appleton Laboratory. And basically the LDAL utilizes both of these effective using high pulsed power laser systems to temporarily ionize or heat a bubble of air in a controlled way known as the Kerr effect. The effect would create a virtual lens or a mirror of a Fresnel zone plates, a device that uses diffraction to focus light, which would have the same properties of refraction, reflection, and diffraction as one built from solid materials, except it could be much, much larger. Military is like the Tesla shield. Military commanders of the future will be able to use LDAR mounted aboard a flying military platform to create a giant lens of air which it could use to enhance its own onboard optics to see over much greater differences. The virtual lens would then disappear as the atmosphere returns to normal temperature. Notice temperature is a key word in this as well. If the system is mounted on an aircraft, the laser beam would fire regular bursts of energy, creating a lens in front or behind the aircraft that moves along it. They also have cloaking as well up there. Invisibility cloaks could breach Geneva Conventions. Scientists and military contractors are spending tens of millions researching methods for generating invisibility through sophisticated metamaterials. DARPA is one of the main funders. The first stealth planes that were used for these type of cloaking went into service in 1980s against Kosovo, Afghanistan. They've had the cloaking devices that long. All right, so the other thing I want to get into is why they're developing things in space. I've been talking about using space for space power, for solar space power from the sky using radio frequencies. This is the company out of Manhattan Beach with all the military brass on the board of directors. Solarin has engineered zero emission electricity from space, cost competitive with any terrestrial source of baseload electricity. They will design, develop, integrate, test, and certify space solar power plants for operations in the coming decade. They were going to go online 2018. Now they pushed it back to 2020. The multi-billion-dollar SSP development program culminates with the launch of the Solarin solar power satellites, operation certification, and start of commercial operation and sales of electricity from our 250 megawatt SSP plant. These solar collectives you see in the deserts of California and whatnot, these big, huge collective solar panels, that's what they're going to be beaming them down to. Solarin is an energy and aerospace company principally engaged in the research, design, development, and integration operations of space solar power. And here you can see here, the companies have all signed, countries have all signed up, patents have all been secured. Here they do the sun, the solar power, the solar arrays, Electricity, this might explain some of the solar rays we're seeing in the sky. RF area antenna, this looks like the sun simulators we see in the sky. Radio frequency power, down to the antennas, electricity, the solar customer. Here's a picture of it. The sun beams down to the satellite, which is, I'll show you what those are in a minute. Then they create the radio frequency power, beam down to these solar collectives on the ground, and voila, you've got power from space. And to prove a point of how long they've been planning this, space-based solar power, Northwest Engineering. This is a document paper about space-based solar power from 2008. This is how long they've been planning to put all of our power sources from the sky using lasers. So how are they going to do this? What's going to be the vehicle to do that? Well, let's take a look and find out for ourselves. Remember the loon balloons that Google's been launching? Well, guess what they're doing, folks? Laser beaming the internet of the future. Turns out that Google, let's go over here first. Google will use lasers instead of fiber to deploy high-speed internet, basically Wi-Fi from the sky. Alphabet, Google's parent company, has entered agreement with India's government to provide high-speed wireless internet to millions of residents using a point-to-point laser connectivity system. It will involve 2,000 boxes installed with 12 miles apart. Will invariably means lasers will use to connect the boxes together, provide a backbone for cell towers and Wi-Fi hotspots, residents access to internet using basic smartphones. Links have a capacity of 20 gigabytes according to Alphabet, far more than traditional radio wave systems can approve. The project is a spin-off of Alphabet's Project Loon, remember the Loon balloon, a concept that uses giant floating balloons to distribute wireless internet to rural areas. Now, why do they have to distribute wireless internet to rural areas when they have satellites? I thought GPS was bringing all our information down to us. No, 80% of all communications is cables run under the ground. Satellites do not exist, folks. They're the loon balloons. This is what they've been doing. All right, and so what are they going to do? Well, the wireless transfer here, laser beaming the internet of the future. This is from 2015. Facebook, Google deploying helium balloons in the stratosphere to provide internet connectivity in remote areas where satellites cannot reach. Facebook wants to launch drones that use laser beams for high-speed internet connectivity in remote regions. The idea is the drone closest to urban areas would use lasers to connect the internet and then pass along the connection to drones flying over rural areas. Both Google and Facebook think that they can use aircraft in the stratosphere roughly 20 kilometers. All right, that's about 12 miles above the Earth. They could function like aerial cell towers and spread the connections more easily without having to figure out the power and the cabling and everything on the ground. Facebook is very interested in using lasers to transfer data. They claim to have set a new record and made the fastest laser data transfer ever. Remember this, 2015. And just so think it shows that they are taking it seriously and trying to push their technology forward. Other companies are coupling laser technology with radio redundancy to deliver uninterrupted internet connectivity in inclement weather. Lasers can emit light that can be modulated at very high speeds and can carry more than a petabit of data per second. A petabit is 1,000 terabytes. A terabyte equals a mind-boggling 1 trillion bits. So a trillion times 1,000. Okay, that's in the quadrillions. The average U.S. internet connectivity is topped at 11.7 megabits per second in the last quarter of this year. So you can see how easy it is for them to beam the wavelengths down for wireless connectivity. Boston University's nanostructured fibers and nonlinear optics said a critical feature of internet connectivity has been used for communications since the late 1970s. It's not new technology. Washington-based TerraBeam was interested in the idea of free space laser communications back in 2004 and produced free space optical transceivers for internet access. Ramachandran said laser beams connecting consumers with fiber to the home applications that promise massive bandwidths to each year are low enough in power to not be a health concern, quote, generally. But Ramachandran said the cost could drop if the market is looking for the kind of higher bandwidth that laser-based free space communications will provide. So one of the big, huge companies bringing this about is Thales Alenia Space, Stratobus. that was introduced during 2004 at Thales Innovation Days. Stratobus is an autonomous multi-mission stratospheric airship midway between a drone and a satellite. It's considered part of the altitude pseudo satellite family. Get that? Pseudo satellite, they're telling us. For observation missions, Stratobus can carry both radar and optical imaging payloads, which gives it continuous surveillance capability day or night under all weather conditions. It could be useful in telecommunications market to provide 4G and 5G connectivity in the future. Its position in the stratosphere at an altitude of 20 kilometers is an optimal position for 5G, which demands very short latency of just a few milliseconds. Secondly, for instance, the internal solar connectors initially designed will now be placed outside on top of the airship. Secondly, the original transparent envelope, meaning you couldn't see it, camouflage, will become opaque. They'll block it out in a different method. All right, we'll get into Thales in a minute, but here's what else they're going to do, which is huge news as well. They're going to be using gas stations in the sky now. Wireless electric vehicle charging. Our gas, our solar power, everything's going to be coming from the sky. Our cars are going to be charged from the sky. Everything's going to be up in space, and that's why that space protection shield that we showed in the opening of the video here is really critical to understand, so they cannot be taken out. Checkmate society and humanity. All of our power, everything, energy will be coming from space in the very near future, it seems. All right, so who's this Thales Corporation? Space for Life. Governments, institutions, and companies rely on Thales Alenia Space to design, operate, and deliver satellite-based systems to position and connect anyone or anything everywhere, help observe our planet, help optimize the use of our planets and our solar system's resources, flat Earth. Whatever it takes indeed. So they've got a couple products here, many products. A joint venture between Thales and Leonardo also teams up with Telespazio to form the parent company's Space Alliance. And they have telecommunications, Earth observation, exploration, navigation, optical infrastructure, blah, blah, blah. Here's what also gets interesting. Iridium next, a constellation of, here's the number, 66 operational satellites will make history. This was July 25th, just a few weeks ago. They launched the 7th batch of Iridium Next satellites built by Thales Alenia. Iridium is replacing its existing constellation of 66 low Earth orbit satellites by sending 75 Iridium Next satellites into space, including spares. They're going to have spare parts in space, folks. Here it gets into it. 81 Iridium Next satellites comprising of 66 operational satellites. Remaining 15 satellites will serve as in-orbit and ground spares. Satellites are manufactured and production line processed by Thales Alenia subcontractor Northrop Grumman and its satellite manufacturing facility in Gilbert, Arizona, under the supervision of dedicated, loyal Thales Alenia Space and Iridium teams. Next constellation will offer global connectivity thanks to the 66 interconnected satellites at an altitude of 780 kilometers. So it's going to be very high up with 9 spares in parking orbits and 6 more spare satellites on the ground. Get that, parking orbits. They can keep them parked in space. They've had the technology a very long time. This global network provides unrivaled capabilities for communications on the move, individuals, land vehicles, aircraft, and ships. So what? Tesla had the technology to do this back in 1905 from the ground. Ensures fully global coverage, including the poles and over the ocean. Another product they have is their Space Bus. Space Bus, look at, they got a gecko chameleon lizard there. Space Bus, the ideal platform for very high throughput telecommunications satellites, featuring high power and capacity about 500 gigabits per second in instantaneous data rate, coupled with flexibility and versatility. This VHTS system will adapt to changing demand in Europe for a fixed and mobile government and commercial connectivity. Working in conjunction with land networks of satellites, a very powerful digital processor will support the deployment of high-speed internet access in sparsely populated and isolated regions, providing a universal solution to bridge the digital divide for everybody. This contract confirms the leadership of Thales Alenia Space in terms of connectivity via satellite indeed. So they're going to be using Wi-Fi lasers to beam down for our cars, for our space, for everything else. This is the other document I wanted to just note at how long they've been planning this. This is from Deborah Tavares at StopTheCrime.net. This is from a corporate office of PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric out here. You remember they're the ones that are being blamed for the fires, or at least for 12 out of the 170. There's still 158 fires. Cal Fire Department Chief Ken Pimlott has not determined the cause of 10 months after the fact. He should resign. All right, Cherry, this is sent to Paul Clannon. This is about space weather. Remember, this is from a document from 2011. Brian, I assume you're assembling a high-level task force of washed up and never were yet somehow movie star handsome former astronauts to handle PG's response to the upcoming damaging space weather. Please dribble out one at a time over the next few months all internal memos, lawsuits, PowerPoint presentations, and officer cover-up directives in which PG&E is repeatedly warned about damaging space weather and chooses to do nothing, then has its lawyers blame it on customers, aka Earthlings. Thank you. So this is California Public Utilities. So this is the document that Deborah Tavares dug up. And this is also confirmed by business investment insiders talking about the growth of the laser market for 21% over the next 4 years. Talking about 2018 to 2022. Include all industries into account, huge growing market. It's also going to be used for our enslavement further when we cannot look, touch, or feel where we're getting our power and energy from, because they're using it for mind control technologies. Neural dust, smart dust being sprayed by geoengineers. The Defense Advanced Research Project Agency from 2016. Led by University of California. They always use universities to do a lot of their work. Electrical engineering, computer sciences developed a safe millimeter scale wireless device small enough to be implanted in individual nerves, capable of detecting electrical activity of nerves and muscles deep within the body, uses ultrasound for powering coupling and communication. They call these devices neural dust. Neural dust represents a radical departure from the traditional approach of using radio waves for wireless communication with implanted devices. This is called touchless torture. I did a 3-hour presentation on it, and it's using wireless to do everything from mind skull, voice to mind, gaslighting, taking over your body, speech, all sorts of things using psychotronic weaponry. Sound waves pass freely through these tissue of our body consists mostly of salt water. Sound waves pass freely through the lens, freely through these tissues, and can be focused with pinpoint accuracy at nerve targets deep inside our body, while radio waves cannot. Indeed, this is why sonar is used to image objects in the ocean, while radar is used to detect objects in the air. By using ultrasound to communicate with neural dust, the sensors can be made smaller and placed deeper inside the body by needle injection or other non-surgical approaches, like being sprayed from the sky smart dust. And they use piezo crystal electronics, which Harold Kautz Vela got into about why piezo crystal electronics is so critical to understanding. And wrapping it up here, folks, this is an excellent website that I think you should just go all over. It's all about lasers. I've been going over this for days. I'm going to do a lot of reports from here. But it describes the different types of technology of laser weaponry. Weapons produce both psychological and physical effects, include highly directional devices, transmit painful audible sounds into one's individual ears. It's called tinnitus, and a lot of people are getting that, and infrasonic generators, which can shoot acoustic projectiles hundreds of meters, causing a blunt impact upon a target. Infrasonic generators can cause negative emotions such as fear, anxiety, or depression, as well as biological symptoms like nausea, vomiting, organ damage, burns, or death, depending on the frequency and the power level. Most of these weapons function between the frequency range about 1 Hz to 30 kHz. These frequencies occur within the following waves: ELFs 1 Hz to 30 Hz, super low frequency 30 Hz to 300 Hz, ultra low 300 Hz to 3 kilohertz, and very low frequency 3 kilohertz to 30 kilohertz. Resonance. All the chemical reactions in the cells of living organisms are caused by electromagnetic oscillations, pulsations, and vibrations, which are collectively referred to as vibrational frequencies. Tesla said everything is frequency, vibration, and energy. They're just using Tesla technology. Infrasound and ultrasound are capable of producing resonance. The link can be established in audible or inaudible sound ranges. Mechanical examples include the pendulums of multiple clocks at the same wall, or the string of piano which vibrates after the same note is played on a nearby guitar. Resonance can be induced electromagnetically by an infrasonic pulse generator, which establishes a link to a person's inner organs by resonating it in their chest area. Once this connection occurs, the power level of the generator can be increased, which would automatically transfer the energy to the person. Remember, and that's our solar plexus, the solar that controls our organs. If the power level is moderate, the person may experience pain in the chest area, or their organs may vibrate. Increasing the power level will destroy their organs. This has been going on for a very long time. In 1972, France was using infrasonic generators which operated at 7 Hertz on its civilian population. Treason. In 73, the Squawk Box, remember CNBC Squawk Box, was used by the British Army in Northern Ireland. It was a directional weapon that could target specific individuals by producing audible sound at 16 kilohertz, which turned into infrasound at 2 hertz when it's coupled with the ears. In the 1990s, Russia developed a 10 hertz VLF, very low frequency modulator, capable of targeting individuals over hundreds of meters, causing pain, nausea, and vomiting. It was adjustable up to lethal deaths. Furthermore, transmitting directed energy using an exact frequency and modulation will trigger a precise chemical reaction in the brain, which will in turn produce a specific emotion on the targeted individual, and it goes into much, much more. So please, this is newworldwar.org site. I encourage you to go thoroughly through this site, since lasers is the new weapon of choice, and wireless will be the power coming to give us power for our internet, power for our cars, and power over all humanity, unless we wake up and speak out and share this information with everybody to let them know what's coming down the pipe in the very near future. All right, there's the plain truth out. I hope this was helpful and informative. Love to hear your feedback in the comment section. Peace, love one another, and be the change we have to see. All life is depending on it now, folks. Time is getting short. Take care.